And God said he should send his one begotten son to lead the wild into the ways of the man. Follow me. Eat my flesh, flesh of my flesh.
John Titor, the man from the year 2036.
He claimed he was here on his way back to the 70s to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer above, which he said was needed to debug various legacy computer programs in 2036. A reference to the Unix year 2036 problem. The 5100 runs the Apple and BASIC programming languages. He claimed he had been selected for this mission specifically, given that his paternal grandfather was directly involved with the assembly and programming of the 5100. John Titor is the name he also used on several bulletin boards during 2000 and 2001. In his online postings, Titor claimed to be an American soldier from 2036, based in Tampa and Hillsborough County, Florida, who was assigned to a governmental time travel project. During his communications he revealed details of his time machine. Titor provided a number of technical specs regarding how time travel worked.
Lazar claims our government captured alien spaceships, UFOs, and keeps them in a secret warehouse. And that's not all. Bob says Uncle Sam hired him to figure out how they fly. If you're skeptical, you have plenty of company. Lazar has been questioned and criticized. He even had to take a lie detector test, and that's when some people started believing him.
Have in their possession alien spacecraft, and they are actively undergoing analysis.
And flying them?
And flying them. The effects that can cause, the way in which everything operates is by all intents and purposes, magic. I mean, it is so far beyond our level of technology.
So I was told near 2020, we will have a greater window for disclosure of temporal operations. Andy Basiago, who was assigned disclosure of temporal operations for this period,
In the movie Looper, Bruce Willis is hunted down by a younger version of himself.
Time travel has not yet been invented, but 30 years from now, it will have been.
Time travel, Hollywood science fiction? Or is it?
I have physically traveled in time.
Andrew Basiago is not acting.
We have. We did over 40 years ago.
The Vancouver, Washington attorney is on a mission to reveal what he calls a 40-year government cover-up of Project Pegasus. Where he says he was teleported back and sideways in time dozens of times.
I have the whole story. I have hundreds of facts. I can tell you what personnel were at what locations where which time travel device was being used.
And his time travel wasn't recent. It was when he was a kid.
I entered the program officially in the fall of 1969 as a third grader, age 7.
One of 140 kids, 60 adults, chrononauts as he calls them, including his dad, who joined him on his first jump.
My dad held my hand and we jumped through the field of energy, and we seemed to be moving very rapidly. But there was also a paradox. We seemed to be going nowhere at all.
Hold on tight, son.
The TV show Fringe aired a similar scene 2 years ago. Coincidence?
Did it?
There's paradoxes, unscientific claims, unbelievable stories and encounters on Earth and Mars. Meeting Barack Obama when the president was a teenager with a different name. Time traveling 6 times to the Ford Theater on the day President Lincoln was shot, but he didn't see it happen. And we're not done with Lincoln.
In fact, during one probe, the one to the Gettysburg Address, I was dressed as a Union Bugle Boy.
That's right, he was at the Gettysburg Address. He says this famous picture taken that day proves it. He says this Bugle Boy is him. It's the only visual evidence he provides for any of his travels. That's it.
I was physically at Gettysburg.
And what about that teleportation? He says Star Trek got it wrong.
So Andy, I just got here via Star Trek teleportation, but that's not how you did it.
No, in fact, if you had just arrived via quantum teleportation, the Star Trek method of teleportation, you would have collapsed as a dead person.
Basiago weaves his tale with such conviction, I thought he's either a psychopathic liar, lunatic, or the fastest thinking science fiction writer on Earth.
A tunnel was opening up in time-space, just like you'd have a cavity inside a soap bubble being blown by a child. And when that bubble closed, we had been repositioned elsewhere in time-space on the face of the Earth.
Some would say Basiago is still living in a bubble, but he's put his professional reputation at risk claiming time travel isn't science fiction. He did it.
However, many people have been through the program, but without preparation or the knowledge of how to handle yourself mentally, the mind fractures. And that is another reason that children were used in the early projects that first explored how consciousness can be transferred in these systems that induce a temporal dislocation. You can view the past, and we're from the future. Humanity jumped back to experience the ancient past. This relates to free will and awakening the soul, because you can ask, what makes you think that this world is real? Only when the soul is awakened is it real. And so you could also say we're in a kind of parallel right now that is secondary to the original base timeline where humanity has been eternally. And so this is like an organic simulation that is being threatened by an artificial intelligence, where it is in a way an ancestor or a civilization simulation, where we came to remember who we are. And again, because in eternity, we would likely come up with ways to create interesting experiences. And in a way, this is one of those that kind of went awry. And it's because of secret groups who figured this out and chose to keep everyone asleep. There's no blame. It is decided that a parasite is responsible for all of this, but we must be accountable for our own actions. And in a way, the ego and the false reptilian brain or the false persona is the artificial intelligence that controls the illusion in our mind.
the Raymond Noodle Gang. Raymond Noodle